Hello.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of It's
It's
Your
your
Time You're
time you're
Wasting.
wasting. Here we are. How
Didn't
are
know you were
you?
going to sing it, Martin.
I think we
A lot.
should get a theme tune.
Yeah. Well, it did have. Do you remember the show, the original iteration of the show, long-time viewers may remember, did have a theme tune, which we've just not been bothered to try and sort out again. But it went, um,
Oh dear. No,
um.
no, no, no,
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we are. Where we are. Yeah, so welcome back. You might remember last week's show was about why beliefs about free will matter in education. We had a couple of people get in touch with us. One of them was Jane Manzone, who, what did she want?
Jane Manzoni. She wants to talk
What
about
did she
free
want,
will and
Martin?
religion and
Yeah.
the religious aspects behind it, and saying we should get someone. Perhaps Jane Manzoni herself could come on and talk about
Yeah.
free will, but would she be able to without God's permission?
Well, how would we know?
Well, that's it. So we would ask her, and
Seems
she's
appropriate if
free
we're going to talk
free to
about
do it.
one illusion to talk about another at the same time,
Oh,
doesn't it?
you're saying there's two
Oof.
illusions there, and I'm not going to go
Oof.
with that. I'm not going to go with that.
Well, and Sarah Helm left a comment. What did she tell us,
She
Martin?
said she thought she was the only person watching us, but
Oh,
it transpires there's quite a few. She said so at that particular
yeah.
time. So
I
she's not
think
the only viewer.
I think most people have a sense that they're the only person
But that's
in
the
the
way
world
we do it.
watching us.
I think that's the way we
Yeah,
do it.
we're
Is that
talking directly to you.
that's it?
We're here for you.
Make you feel
Yeah,
important.
y- special and different.
Yeah. And then there was talking about special and different.
Mm.
There's a comment about me. Not that I'm
Oh,
special,
well,
but
you are.
it's from Sylvester Raphael or Raphael Sylvester. I don't know which.
I'm going to go with the latter.
Yeah, I think so. And he Raphael.
Hey,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And he says, I subscribed even though I will never watch this. I listen to you
Wow.
guys on Spotify,
One of
but I
our lovely Spotify listeners.
but I wanted to make
So,
Martin happy. So he
well, who doesn't?
came on and
We're all
subscribed. So please,
we're all motivated
we're going to do
in that respect.
the little thing I made,
Oh
which
yeah, do the
was
thing.
this. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, like, subscribe,
Please
and other things. Yeah, the other thing.
follow,
What other?
stars, all those things you can do over on
Yeah,
Spotify and wherever else you are.
yeah. So Raphael Sylvester, do those things on Spotify, and we'll
Yeah.
be even happier. And get in touch to tell us that even whatever you want to get in touch. Tell us that.
Anyway,
So,
look, should we get
Martin,
on?
bit of
Should
a
we get on?
departure. Yeah, let's get on with it. Get on with it. I've got to apologise first of all. I'm a little bit under the weather this week. I'm a
Right?
bit poorly. Yeah, I'm a bit sniffly. So if I sniff
Yeah.
during the recording, it's because I'm not as well as I might be. So hopefully, viewers and listeners will forgive the occasional sniff and
Yeah.
chalk it up not to
I hope
bad
there's
manners,
nothing
but
going to be you're going to sneeze over the camera or anything like that. That would be a bit
I'm not going to do that.
unsavoury.
No,
And as long as you don't snuff it, talk of snuff
thank
it.
you.
I don't want you to drop
Yeah,
dead.
no, I
But it
don't.
would
I would
probably
hope
get
that
more
doesn't
viewers if
happen.
you did, mind you. If you,
Oh, can I do a little plug as well? We can
yeah,
put a link
okay,
to this. I'm raising money for Cancer Research UK.
that's
I'm
right.
running a half marathon in October, and if any of you would like to either sponsor me or to tell your friends and family to do so, I'd be chuffed to bits.
So you could send a link, and
I'll
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 put it
give you the
under
link,
the
Martin, and we'll
yeah,
put it underneath the description, and that would be super.
yeah. There you go.
Right. Anyway, bit of a departure this week, Martin, because we're doing a sort of film review.
We're going to
We're going
talk
to talk
about Dead Poets Society, which is a well known education themed
themed
film back from the last century, in fact, if you think about it.
35 years ago, more or less, isn't
Is
it?
it? Is it
Yeah,
1989?
yeah.
So it's going to be 36 at least, isn't it?
Wow. There we are. Over 35.
Over 35. And there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, stop watching
If you
now.
haven't seen it, my goodness, what's wrong with you? If you haven't seen it, just go and stop this, go and watch it, come back,
Come
stop
back.
making such a fuss.
That's it.
Goodness me,
And
spoilers. Oh,
yeah, let's have a quick look at it. It's directed by Peter Weir, and it's set in the 1950s, and I suppose you'd call it a coming of age play.
yeah, it's my second favourite Peter Weir film that's connected to education and private schools.
Yeah, what was the other one?
Picnic at Hanging Rock. I
That's it.
love that
That's it.
movie.
Yeah, we could
It's so
discuss that
weird.
another time, perhaps, but
Well,
not now.
maybe,
But
maybe.
not now.
No, sorry. Okay. He also directed Witness. That was a great film, wasn't it, with Harrison Ford and
There you go. We're going to
uh,
go.
like,
Yeah, we're not
someone
talking about
else.
that either.
Kelly Mc. No, sorry. Anyway, I'm contextualizing Peter Weir
Ah, okay.
for
Yeah, okay. We'll give you that
the
excuse.
the
Yeah.
viewers. Yeah, yeah.
Now he was
Master and
actually
Commander. There's another one.
he was up for director of
Best director.
director's Oscar, but he didn't get it actually.
It did win some Oscars, though, didn't it,
It
Martin?
did. It won one Oscar, which
Right.
was
Okay.
Tom Schulman won the Oscar for the screenplay.
Okay. Did he? Interesting.
And Best Picture that year didn't go to it, though it was nominated. It went to
Mm.
Driving Miss Daisy, if you remember that
Oh,
one.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And Martin reminded me of this before we started recording, but Robin Williams was up for Best Actor, but that went, I think, somewhat to my relief, went to Daniel Day-Lewis
Daniel
for My Left
Day-Lewis for his left
Foot,
foot. And
which was magnificent
yeah,
and well worth a watch.
but there is something. It did win a BAFTA
Ah,
for Best Film.
that's all that matters.
So it's Best Film over here in the British
Yeah, there's something
Academy.
quite English about it, isn't there?
Well,
Even though
very
it's very
strangely,
much
yes,
an American film.
certainly come to that because it's a very odd
Mm,
character who sort of drifts in and out of it somehow. I don't quite understand, but he's very English.
mm.
But yeah,
Can I
we'll
ask
come
you,
to that.
Martin, before
Yeah,
we
go
crack
on.
on? Wait, can you remember when you first saw it?
Now we were talking about this before we went up, as they say. I wasn't. I remember seeing it,
Yeah.
but I don't know when, and I think it must have been in
Okay.
1989
Yeah.
or 90. I mean, very very early on, and then
Yeah.
it was because people were talking about it. It was a film people talked
Mm,
about and
it
people
was.
enjoyed. And then I watched it again 2 days ago for this very
Only you hadn't
setup.
seen it in between.
I hadn't seen it in between at all, no.
Oh, interesting.
So I needed
So
to
I
refresh.
I have a very distinct memory of going with a friend to the cinema at age 16 to see it. And I hadn't, he was very keen. My friend, who I'm no longer in touch with, sadly, he was very keen to see it. Said, "Oh, you'll love this," and persuaded me to go and see it. And I did love it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch it again until earlier this year, maybe sort of April time, on a long haul flight. And it was one of those oldies options, and I thought, I'll give that a, I'll give that a look. So we both rewatched it fairly recently. You obviously very recently,
Mm. Yeah, and I think it works very well. I think it's a lovely film.
mm,
It works as a film. It's a perfect film
which
in
is what it
some
is.
ways. Yeah, which is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
What-
I think
Is there
it's
anything it doesn't work as, Martin?
well. I think there's a huge amount of baggage that goes with it for teachers. I
Mm,
think, and that perhaps is worth looking at. But there's a clear dichotomy set up in the film, um,
right.
and it's a dichotomy between the four pillars. Do you remember the four pillars? Shall I tell you what they are?
Oh, of Welton Academy.
Yes, that's set in a school. That's we
Ah,
better say that. Yes,
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
this
Yeah, so
in
it's
a
set in
prep
a
school
school. Yeah, in
uh,
the 50s.
in America,
Very traditional.
very traditional, and they have the four pillars. Like lots of schools these days have their pillars,
Mm,
don't they, or their virtues, or whatever
they
they want
do.
to call them. And the four banners are paraded at the beginning of term, and they're brought into the assembly hall, and
Yeah,
they with a pipe. They're piped in by with bagpipes, and
beautiful.
they say on each banner, each of the four banners, we have tradition,
Mm,
discipline, honor,
mm,
and
mm.
excellence.
Yeah.
And
So those are all things, which are very lovely. Uh, they're not they're not normally celebrated as one of the four pillars of schools now today, are they? I
I
think
I
you get
think
respect
excellence. You
quite a
get
lot, and
excellence, don't you? You get
excellence
excellence,
maybe, excellence maybe,
and people
community
might say
maybe.
tradition. They might sort
Maybe.
of put in
That's
different
quite
words. I
loaded,
would
isn't it?
suppose that
Yeah,
we have knowledge or something like that. Um,
maybe.
and honor was, honor could have a certain
Yeah, it's
cachet,
very
and
character
discipline. We're
education, isn't
nice
it?
to each other. We care for each other. Those sorts of things. The
Mm.
light of knowledge. They actually light a candle and call it the light of knowledge, and that's passed from person to person. They light each other's candles as it goes down.
A bit like a Chris Dingle service.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yes. Maybe. I haven't been to one of those for
I
years.
just thought I'd chuck that in.
Yeah. Thanks for
Oh,
that.
no, it's a pleasure.
And
Anytime.
they chant it as well because the head teacher says tradition, discipline, honor, excellence, and they chant back tradition, discipline, honor, excellence. And the head teacher starts the assembly at the beginning of the year with "We are the best prep school in the US," says the head teacher. But he introduces a new English teacher because
Member of
the
staff,
a new
yes.
member of staff, Mr. John Keating. And there's a certain sort of element of Keat and Keats there, I suppose we could
Yeah,
perhaps.
we're meant to think of John Keats, aren't we? Or at least fleetingly. I don't think he bears any relation to I've read a couple of biographies of John Keats, and the Williams character is not very similar in his teacher iteration.
But it is making a connection with poetry and Romanticism,
It is.
perhaps, and
Yes.
those two big themes that come out of this. Uh,
Yeah.
the youngest character, a new character, is also introduced
Hang on,
to
before
the
we get
boys.
to the
Go on,
youngest
yeah.
characters, you're talking. You were setting up a dichotomy, which I think you've glossed a little bit.
Right, I'm setting. Well, with the, I'm
Yeah.
going to come to that because the boys' four pillars are just about to come up. The
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so we have the youngest Todd, who's introduced to the head teacher by his parents, and then
Yeah.
we move over to the lake and the woods, and we see nature and the importance of nature and flocks of birds and things like that repeat throughout the film.
Mm.
Then we go into the boys' dorm, and we have the boys chanting their own four pillars, which are travesty, horror, decadence, and excrement. So they have this
Mm.
secret four
Yeah.
pillars of their own, which are obviously that's the kind of dichotomy I would set up that
Yeah.
the
Oh,
film
I
is
see.
setting up for itself. That there's, in other words, we have order and perhaps chaos. We have
Yeah. I'm just trying
the
to imagine a
discipline,
pillar
the
of excrement
truth, and
just for a
yeah,
moment.
I'm sure you've done one in your past. Perhaps not when you're ill, um, but there's this dichotomy between the boy and of course boys, teenage boys, sometimes want to push against authority, but the idea of authority and its opposite, shall we say?
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because uh, the it's not true that all the boys want to push against authority,
No,
and
these
that
four
there's only
boys,
maybe not even these four.
yeah,
There's only really Neil and I forget who's the one that plays the saxophone. What's he called?
yeah, you've lost me there,
Yeah, I can't remember. There's only
but
there
there's
he those characters are very much wanting to do their own thing. The Todd, played by an incredibly young Ethan Hawke,
yes,
uh, is very much a conformist. He doesn't want to get into trouble. He doesn't want to stick his neck out. And Cameron,
Cameron,
um,
yeah, Cameron,
who's obviously he's ginger. We know he's a bit of a bad one. Um, and
but not a bad one as you would expect necessarily.
well, but he's very, very much a conformist, and this is one of the spoilers. He's very much revealed to be somebody who puts his own self-interest and the traditional four pillars, including tradition of the prep school, before the lessons, the life lessons of Mr. Keating,
Mm.
such as they are.
And there's also Neil, who is probably,
Yeah.
I would say Neil and Todd are the main characters in the film,
Yes.
really. And
Yeah.
Neil's dad gets Neil to drop editing the school magazine called The Annual. So I think whether it comes out
Oh.
once a year or something.
Well, that would make sense if it was an annual.
And the first lesson, we cut to the first lesson, and we have the first lesson with Mr. Keating, that is.
Mm.
And we have, before that, we have the call and response lessons of the Latin class. We have the rather
Yeah.
dreary science lessons. So we go a quick
We're having this
journey
setup,
around the
aren't we, for
school.
what the experience of the boys is like in school?
Yeah. And then we switch over to the English lesson and Mr. Keating's first lesson, and he's seen sneaking round the corner, looks and
Yeah.
then hides off and then comes back, gives out the textbook, and then gets them to read from the beginning of the textbook, which is
Yeah,
the
he gets
rather dreary, as he puts it, lesson on
sort of essay
poetry. Essay on
on
poetry,
yeah
yeah.
on criticism, and it's a bit sneaky, isn't he, in that respect, because he gets one of the boys, I think it's Cameron, isn't it, the ginger lad. He gets him to read it out, and then he says, "Right, okay, take your ruler," and makes all of the children rip that section of the textbook out
Yeah.
and and put it in the bin.
And they hesitantly start off and then they do. And oh, Mr. Keating was whistling the ninth, Beethoven's ninth, when he came in. I forgot about that. That's quite important. But yeah, so then they rip out the pages, and not all of them, I don't think, but quite a few of them. I think they all do it in the end.
I
And
think
then another
they
teacher
start
comes
going a bit
in,
wild, don't they? Yeah.
and the other teacher comes in and says, "What's going on here?" And then sees it's all
There's a
underhand
lesson in
sort of bit.
progress. Yeah.
Yes. Then he said, "Okay,
Have
I'll
you?
leave it
Did you
to you."
ever have that happen to you?
What, people come in when I'm
Yeah, and go,
as
what's all?
chaos?
Oh, sorry about that,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah. People
Robinson.
have come into my classes before
Yeah,
because they're quite noisy occasionally.
yeah. No, I've definitely had that experience too.
Screaming. Um, yeah. So another lesson. I think he gets the boys to follow him out of the classroom,
Marching around, he's
to follow him to the
teaching them some
foyer
sort of.
and talks, and he shows them some old pictures of old boys. And it is a boys'
Ah,
school, by
this
the way.
is
We forgot to mention this is
it's
very much
very
a
much a
boys'
boys'
movie.
school. Yeah, yeah.
And
The only female character in it is not really a
there's
character, is she?
there's three female characters and a but very, very
Well,
small characters. Yeah,
there's somebody's mum,
very
isn't
small
there? And
roles. No, but
yeah.
there's girls. There's three girls. There's two who are taken into the cave, but we'll
Oh
come to that.
yeah,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
yeah. They don't really
Oh,
signify, do they?
uh,
Bless them.
gather
They're
ye
kind of
rosebuds while ye may. He reads
Herrick,
out this poem. Do you remember this poem? Who's it by?
Robert Herrick.
There you go. Do you want to talk about that? You're the poetry
Oh
expert.
well, not. I don't want to talk about that particular poem, but in any great depth. But that idea of gathering rosebuds while you may is very much central to one of the most memorable messages of the day. So the Latin phrase "carpe diem," which is usually translated as "seize the day," that's certainly what I learned that from watching it as a 16-year-old, and that's something that I've had in like, as part of my mental repertoire ever since. That seizing the day is a good thing to do, and that one shouldn't procrastinate and hope
Yeah.
that things will pan out in the future. And that's very much the message of Eric's poem. But it's also, I suppose, it's contained maybe slightly less honourably in things like Marvel in To His Coy Mistress, which is very much seizing the day in terms of like, look, we should just have sex. There's no point waiting. We'll be dead.
Well,
Come on.
that's he looks at the pictures of boys and then he whispers things about one day we will all die. Look at the
Yeah,
pictures of boys from the past. They are now fertilizing daffodils. Lean in. Do you hear it? Whispers carpe diem. Make your lives extraordinary.
that's right.
And
That's right.
Cameron asks,
There's
"Will
something.
will we have a test on this? Will he test us on
Yes.
this?" And of course,
That very much reminds me of History Boys, the Pass It On.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of echoes with the History Boys in this, and
Mm.
also
Were they?
the
I'm
holdovers
sure
as
that
well.
was. Well, the holdover is obviously much more recent, but the
Yeah.
History Boys, I think, was pretty much contemporary, wasn't it?
I think a bit later. I don't know. I can't
Was it?
hold
Was
myself
it?
to that.
Okay.
I can't
No,
actually
fair enough.
say
Please
one
get
or
in
the other.
touch to tell us. Uh, that. Okay, yeah, no. So that's very much a message that the boys have been given. That all of these pillars about discipline and tradition and excrement and all of these things uh, are, very, are very much about doing the right thing in terms of what society wants, parents, wants school, what people like, and Keating is subverting some of this message, saying, no,
Well,
you've got to act now. You've got to do what feels right. You've got to trust your own individuality.
this is
You
the
don't
odd
think so?
thing. The odd thing. I think that, but the memory of it that I had was that he was
Mm,
really quite a large character in the film.
yeah,
Rewatching it, he actually doesn't appear that much. And he does about three lessons. Obviously, he does more than three lessons
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
life off screen. But it's it's the boys who do a lot of it to themselves, if you like,
No,
which is it's
I,
done with the book, The Dead Poets Society, that he leaves in. I think it's Neil's desk. He leaves a book there of 5 centuries of poetry. And Neil
mm.
opens this out and he finds something about the Dead Poets Society. And I think he has a quick meeting or something with the
There's a
boy,
Thoreau
Mr.
quote
Keating.
at the beginning, isn't
Yeah.
there? And
Go on. Do you remember it?
yeah. Oh, I don't. How's it go?
Oh, God, I've got to look that up. I don't know if I've even got it.
It's about going down to the woods, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that. Oh,
I can't
well,
remember.
I'm scrapping. Is it? Is it? I went to the. Yeah, I went to the woods. I can't remember what happens next.
Right.
Sorry.
No, it's perfectly all right. We'll let you off.
I'm
We'll let you
gonna
off.
I'm gonna look that up whilst we're. Because I feel a
No,
bit
I think,
ashamed. I can't
yeah, you
remember how
should.
it
You
goes.
brought it up and I can't remember it.
I went to the woods. I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach. There we are.
There you go.
From Walden.
Yeah. And that's
Not a poem,
no,
interestingly.
and that's at the front of the book. And then there are poems in the book. And then they sneak out one night and go to that cave just as years
Yeah, the
ago.
old Indian cave, isn't it?
Right. And they go there and they read poems to each other just as Keating did back in his day. And that's kind of passing that on, I suppose, that they do the
Yeah. Well,
same
that's a
thing.
tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something about, I remember, sucking the marrow out of life or something like that.
Yeah. There's something interesting, of course, we've got to say about one of the first lessons is he gets them to look at things from a different angle, and he jumps up on the
Yeah.
desk and says, look at
Yes.
things from up here and things like that, which I don't know if you're impressed by that teaching method. Um,
Well, so yeah, no, I mean, obviously, the great irony of that is he makes all of the boys get up on his desk and view the world in exactly the same way
yeah.
as each other and in exactly the same way that he has instructed them to view it. And so this kind of idea of thinking differently and being different and being an individual is sort of, you have to question a little bit to what extent Keating is what we see of his teaching. He's very provocative and he's very sort of like, let's smash things up. Let's do away with, the dry part of the poetry book. Let's do away with literary criticism. Let's just enjoy the sensation of the words on the page and blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't give them any structure with which to think differently. He doesn't really allow them, or we certainly never see
I mean,
him
this
in.
is the problem with films, isn't it?
Well,
You can't do everything in a film. I mean, if it was actually a film that, that did all these lessons, it would be quite a long and dull film, probably.
well, probably, but if we wanted to show that he was teaching them how to think, we could probably have encapsulated that in a short scene.
Well, he does Shakespeare. He does say the importance of Shakespeare. He does Marlon Brando and John Wayne impressions.
Yeah, I mean, which is very Robin Williams, isn't it? That's like, it's Robin Williams saying, "Oh, I haven't been able to do any impersonations yet. Let me do John Wayne."
But this is the
And
key line from what you were just saying. What he says to the boys: when you read, it's not just what the author thinks; It's what you think too. Find your own voice.
Which is it Todd, the Ethan Hawke character? He very much has to find his voice because he has a speech impediment, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's very embarrassed about speaking in public, and then Robin Williams' character, Mr. Keating, does a sort of. I expect nowadays people would balk at this, but it's he got him to speak, shall we say, by putting his hand over his eyes and getting him to say anything that was coming up at all, and just start shouting out.
Yeah, and he comes out with a poem, doesn't he?
Yeah, and people around him sort of laugh at him at first, and then but he gets over that
Yeah, no.
and just goes for it. I think, would you approve of that way of teaching?
Well, I think we're not encouraged to touch children, are we? But do you know what that reminds me of? Do you remember the one of those educating shows? Not the first one with Educating Essex, but one of the latter ones where one of the
Educating Yorkshire,
teachers
the
was
boy with
it
a
where
speech
yeah,
impediment.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And it had been at around the same time that the film The King's Speech came out,
Right.
and there was this kind of public sense of, gosh, having a stutter is quite tricky. I have a stutter. Not a lot of people know that, Martin, but I have a stutter, and it was more pronounced when I was at school, and it's not and it's not one that I suffer with overwhelmingly, and it mainly plagues me on the phone.
Hmm.
And the one thing that I find myself almost incapable of saying on the phone is my own name.
That says something. I'm sure Freud would have
Isn't that
something to say.
interesting? I know. So sometimes there'll be, I don't know, I'm talking to some sort of official person on the phone. They say, "What's your name?" And I start to say it, and they're like, "Cool, what's your name?" And I'm like, and I have to say to them, "Look, I've got a stutter. Give
Yeah.
me a moment." And then they're a bit like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah.
Um,
That's the
and
way to
I,
do it, though.
well, it is,
Put them on the
and
defensive.
I know. And once I've said it once, then it's out, and it's. But my younger brother had a much more pronounced
Okay.
stutter than I did, and yeah, I think it was, it's a real plague. So anyway, so one of the things I can't remember what point in the play it comes out, but he talks about this idea from Walt Whitman of the barbaric yawp. Do you
Yeah, he
remember
said,
that?
"Yorp, madman, close your eyes," and he puts his hand on the face and brings it out of him to "Yorp, Yorp, Yorp," and he has to say it louder each time.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's from Song of Myself.
yes, well, there you go.
Yes. Yes. Well. Yeah.
Walt
Exactly.
Whitman. Yes,
Yeah. Exactly.
but
So
the
the idea of sounding I can't say it now. My barbaric Yorp over the roofs of the world. Isn't that nice?
and
So maybe standing on the desk.
one of the first homeworks that he
Yeah.
gives is to them to write their own poem. I mean, they're
Yeah.
so this idea about self-expression coming in. There's interesting.
Which some of the boys didn't do. Do you remember?
No, only
The
one
cat
didn't
sat
do. I
on the
think
mat.
it was Todd who didn't do it, and Todd
No,
was because they were
it
going to
was.
read it out loud, and Todd didn't do it because he was writing it and then screwing it up and throwing it away. He's writing, screwing up, throwing away. Came to
No,
the
no.
lesson,
There was
said he didn't write
there
it.
were there were various boys who didn't take it seriously, and like one of them got
Mr.
up and said, "My
Hopkins,
poems."
Mr.
Oh, is
Hopkins.
that what he's called?
Yes, the
And
boy.
he just says the cat
The
sat on the
cat sat
mat.
on the mat. That's it. And but he said, "Well, you've done very well. It's quite simple rhyme. But nothing
Yeah.
wrong about that." Um,
I
there's
wouldn't have praised that effort, I have to
no
say.
the
No.
the boys
Would
are
you?
also pictured at another point in their dormitory, and there's two of them making a crystal set, and
Radio. Yeah.
yeah, and we hear on that crystal set the upcoming rock and roll that's just sort of
Yeah.
coming out. And this is sort of, it's foreshadowing the 50s, 60s, what's going to happen, the whole revolution, if you like, that
Mm.
takes place. Yeah. Also, at this point, Neil talks about how he wants to be an actor. And he sees that there's some auditions coming up for Midsummer Night's Dream, and he wants to play Puck. and forges a permission letter from his father to make sure is able to do that and go along to the auditions and get the part, which he does. Which he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another point. They put together a piece in their school magazine, the annual, and they put in there that we should open the school to girls. And there's this sort of rebellious nature of the boys is coming out on quite a few different things. One of them's fallen in love with a cheerleader and goes to a party at her place, and
Yeah.
they are going to become lovers, but her then boyfriend was a bit upset about it and
Punches him.
punches him in the face. Yeah, we have blood.
Yeah.
It's it's a coming of age. It's a coming of age movie. It's quite orthodox in that sense. But then I think we should go towards the end where what happens
It
is
becomes a lot darker.
it's a very dark moment, and Neil, whose father is very authoritarian, finds out that the letter is being sent, goes to see him in the play, and he's
It's
at the back of the
furious.
hall, and Neil comes up to him after the play, sort of, what do you think, sort of thing, and the father is absolutely beside himself, drags him home, says, we want you to get into medicine, become a doctor. We don't want you're not going to do any acting. You're banned from doing all that. And Neil is absolutely crushed by this whole thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
in the
And
night, he gets up.
sadly,
Well, he
takes his
gets
own
up in the
life.
night and it goes down to his father's desk, takes a gun from inside it, and shoots himself. And his
Mm.
father wakes up with a start, said, "What was that noise?" and goes downstairs, and he is crushed as well by seeing his boy lying there. I also mustn't forget to mention earlier on, because of the forged letter, the head teacher gives him the paddle, hits him with the paddle for forging a letter
Yeah.
from his father, and gives him 6 of the best or 12 of the best. And looking at those two things, you would think the way that the father treated him and the way that the head teacher treated him were the two things that actually crushed him so much. But the person who takes the blame for the school is Mr. Keating
Is
and his
Keating.
unorthodox teaching methods.
Were you ever paddled or caned,
I
Martin?
was hit. Yes, I was hit. We had the slipper, although it was a training shoe.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
called the
yeah.
slipper. Yeah. Well, you were
Yeah,
too
yeah, I
young for
remember.
that, were you?
No, I
No.
wasn't. No, I remember being threatened with the cane when I was in primary school, and it was this terrifying looking implement with sort of
Mm.
splinters coming off this sort of wooden, sort of, yeah, absolutely terrifying thing. And the head teacher brandished it at me,
Mm.
and didn't hit me with it. And then later on, I think I must have been in what's now called year 9. I must have been sort of 13, 14. And I refused to spill the beans on who had done something. They knew it wasn't me, but
Yeah.
they also believed that I knew who it was, and I wouldn't spill the beans, and I was caned.
There you go.
I know. And I was at a Catholic school, and it was just at the point where corporal punishment was becoming phased out. But because
Mm.
it was a Catholic school, they were allowed to continue administering it with parents' permission, and they'd written to all the parents going, this is the situation. And my mum wrote back going, absolutely, cane him.
Quite right.
Quite right.
Never
Yeah.
did me any
Oh,
harm.
never know. Well, so yeah, she was all in favour of me being caned. Bless
And
her.
the ruler across the knuckles was the other one, which
I remember. I never had that. I do remember teachers throwing chalk rubbers at us if we were talking. In sort of, I don't remember ever being hit by them, but them
mm.
sailing at speed past my head. Definitely, I think if they had made contacts, it would have been pretty great. Anyway, sorry,
But
I digress.
we also had board rubbers thrown at us on one memorable occasion when a child in the class had a chair thrown at him by the teacher. So
Good Lord.
I know.
Yeah.
Hey ho, those were
Yeah.
the
Happy
days.
days. Happy day. I mean, that we're talking about film. Do you know another film we should talk about? One of my absolute favourites is Kes.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And the scene in that where the head teacher is caning the smokers and says to them, "You were all here last week. You're all going to be here next week. I don't know why I bother," but then proceeds to cane them all anyway.
yeah, yeah. You know how it goes. Justice.
You know how it goes. Yeah.
Um, but this thing about unorthodox teaching methods becomes
Mm,
a thing. The head teacher says to Mr. Keating, "I'm hearing about unorthodox teaching methods. Tradition, John. Discipline. Prepare them for college."
yeah.
And that's what the job should be. It shouldn't be about any of these other things.
Yeah. Keating says something along the lines of, "Oh, shouldn't we be teaching them to think for themselves?" And the head
Yes.
teacher says, "No,
No. And that
absolutely
and
not.
that's yeah, that's for college. That's for later.
Mm, that's for later."
That's not what we do in high school. That's not what we do
Yeah.
here. That's for when, they go on. And that's something which is quite interesting to pursue to some extent.
Mm,
Look, we have here the classic setup between the
yeah.
disciplined world, the world of this is the way to do it, these are the correct
Hmm.
methods, this is the tradition, yes, but also discipline and the old world.
And self-discipline as well as part of that.
And then we have the romanticism
Mm,
of this is about self creativity, creating things for yourself, but also,
yeah.
and I'm going to use a quote here if I can find it, from Michael Gove, which I
Oh,
think which I think is an ultimate
a
expression.
notable romantic.
Well, I think so. Here, this is
Yeah.
what teachers do. Teachers give children the tools by which they can become authors of their own life story and builders of a better world. And I think that's an extraordinary expression of what teachers should do by Michael Gove, the romantic, clearly. But that
Yeah,
whole
there we are.
romantic ideal is that you make the world for yourself. You seize the day, you create things, you do it for your own expression of your emotional self. You follow the emotion. You want to become an actor, that's what you should become. If the
Mm.
world says you'd be better off going into medicine, well, these days, no, this is what you should do. Now, it's interesting that the
And
whole
with
movement
both,
of the last few years has been against romanticism, that
do you
romanticism
think?
has been a bad thing for schooling, and Rousseau is the one who takes the rap mainly for romanticism in the
Maybe a bit of
education
Herbert
world.
Spencer as well.
Yeah, For a Meal, or whatever that book was called, For a Meal, I think.
It was called Emile. Yeah.
Yeah. And whether romanticism is something that has been kicked out of schools, I don't think so, but certainly there's an effort on the way to denigrate it as a movement, if you like. Would you agree with that or disagree?
Wow. So obviously the way romanticism is perceived in different ways in different domains, different fields. So obviously in education, the word romantic is very much connected with child-centered education and
Which is
and
in this film.
self-expression.
It is the child. The
Yeah,
child takes center, what they feel, what they do, their
yeah,
own expression, and it
yeah,
is against the authority of the school.
yeah. Absolutely, and against the authority of the literary critic. Like
Mm,
who cares what they think?
yeah.
We're interested in how you feel these poems. Seize the day. So that sort of educational perception of romanticism is is not quite the same as the way it's perceived in literary terms or aesthetics. The idea of the priority of the imagination and particularly nature. And you talked about those cutaway
Mm,
shots to the grounds of the school, sort of reminding us that we're rooted in nature, and them going off to the old Indian cave, which is a much more sort of primitive feeling,
yeah.
but definitely rebellion's part of romanticism, isn't it? And
It's
but also I
rebellion.
think,
and not only, I mean, obviously the French Revolution is
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
a big example of it.
I've
But
been reading a book about that this
there you
week.
go. And but
Hilary
other
Mantel's novel. Very good.
very good. And there
Sorry.
are other things that come across with the rebellion. Like I said, there's rock and roll coming up, but there's
Mm.
also this sort of typical, perhaps sort of doomed creature. I mean, suicide is a
Well,
theme in early Romanticism with the painting
yeah,
of what's his name? Not Werther. Is it Werther? Young Werther, who
young Werther,
kills
yeah.
himself and is lying on the couch, and also the idea of poetry, the sort of waif-like, rather effete young men who have all got
Yeah,
consumption.
right.
They're all going to
So,
die of various
which
diseases.
obviously Keats embodies, doesn't he? Sort of dying in his early 20s of consumption. But I also wanted to draw out, and I think this is something the film plays with, the idea of the artist as prophet,
Mm,
and Neil in his role as actor as artist has is given this, and especially in the build up to his suicide, is given this otherworldly. I mean, it's not a coincidence that he's playing. I think it's Puck, isn't it?
mm, mm, mm.
In the play, and he has this fey quality, which then is completely at odds with the world of his parents,
Yeah,
and the only way that he can imagine resolving that tension is by taking his dad's gun and killing himself. Yeah,
yeah.
but
I mean, it's an interesting one, of course, that it would be drama, wouldn't it? It would be
mm.
drama as the
Drama and
revolutionary art.
literature, they're the culprits, aren't they? Always.
Well, the humanities
Um,
and the arts are certainly set in, some sort of opposition to the sciences
mm,
and languages. Though at the end of the film, the language teacher has taken his pupils out of the classroom and is marching them around in the snow, and they're chanting. They're still chanting the declensions or whatever, but they're chanting them outside. And there's that little sort of give to a new way of teaching,
a
perhaps
minute
to
moment of transcendence there.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's something odd about Mr. Keating, which I can't quite put my finger
Yeah.
on,
Well,
and that is his Englishness. He's not
he,
English, but he does speak
no,
quite almost with an English accent at points. But he has a girlfriend in London, and he can't
really.
live there. He can't live in London because he wants to teach, as though the only effing school in the whole world that he can teach in is the school he
It's
went
his
to as a
old
kid.
alma mater. Yeah.
Yeah, which is peculiar. He gets them. He offers cups of tea. Would you
Yeah.
want some tea?
And there he is in his tweeds.
In his tweeds, and it's all very much about
He's
this
very
sort of.
affected, isn't he?
It's a very odd character, and it's
He's
almost
not
he's
he's
not
not
real
like the rock and
character.
roll teacher, is he? With sort of wearing turtlenecks and sort
No,
of
but it
leather
is before
jackets.
rock and roll. To be fair, I mean, got to give them their
Just
dues on that. But
right on the edge.
he
But
could have turned into
he,
Elvis, I suppose, or something.
he could have been a bit of a beatnik, couldn't he?
Yeah. But what do we think about romanticism in schools nowadays? Do we think there's a place for it? Perhaps as romanticism as a reaction against, I mean, typically against industrialization, against the
Mm,
data-driven world, the machine,
yeah.
classically
Well,
as well, the
I
train,
didn't
whether it
didn't
be Turner
somebody
putting it there or Wordsworth rejecting it, the whole
Blake.
urbanization and everything. Yeah, all
Yeah.
this. So what about in
Didn't
schools
didn't
these
didn't
days? Is there
somebody
that
write an
kickback?
education book of something versus the machine? Wasn't
Ah, you could say that
uh,
there's a romantic for you. There's a
yeah.
romantic for you.
Well, tell us your thesis from your book, Martin.
No, but I think there is a setup that you can go too far in one
Mm,
direction than the other direction, shall we say, and that if schools become places which are mechanized to the point of saying our entire school is about exam results, everything is put in
yeah.
that direction. Everything, all the data we collect is entirely for that. The focus of this school is results. End
Yeah.
of. And which you can get to in some schools, though you could say it's a
Yeah.
straw man. But I think there are some
Maybe.
schools that do it more than others, put it that way, where they do really sort of become
And there's a
more
lot of
mechanized
pressure
than
on
others.
schools
Yeah,
to follow that route. It's not that, that the schools are being led by brutalists who just want to stamp down on individuality. These are the terms under which schools are held accountable.
yeah. The other thing, of course, was E.D. Hirsch, and
Yeah.
echoed by Gibb, sort of did come into it as anti-romantics. They set this. I mean, Gibb particularly set his stall out based on that Hirsch quote that is, doing down romanticism, particularly of Rousseau. So I suppose
Mm.
progressivism was was the main focus, but
Yeah.
actually it was done in
Well,
the name of romanticism.
yeah. I mean, is it worth talking a little bit about how Rousseau saw education and what he advocated?
The problem we have with romanticism is to actually say what it is, because romanticism is such a wide field of very different
Yeah,
personalities and
absolutely.
characters. On one hand, it leads to liberalism. On the other hand, it leads to Nazism. Um,
Well,
and Marxism,
for
and
sure,
this,
for sure.
so
No,
it covers.
but
It's not.
let's just pick out a couple of Rousseau's main points, which have been very sticky
Yeah.
within the. So there are lots of people, I think, who subscribe to some of these ideas without necessarily knowing that they are Rousseau.
Mm,
So he was very much in. He very much argued the idea that children are naturally good, that they're
mm,
born innocent and morally clean, but they are then corrupted by society. And obviously, school is very much part of
mm,
society. So that if we are interested in preserving a child's natural goodness, we should avoid forcing them to conform with a corrupt world. And I think that idea is. Yeah, I think that really informs a lot of people's beliefs about, their concerns about the authority of teachers and schools, and that children's self-expression and creativity should be prioritized above all else. Do you
mm.
not think?
Yeah, and the part that romanticism brings out about that is the individual fighting against the rest of society. Saying that
Mm.
everything is bad around here.
Yes, yes, exactly.
But
Exactly. So similar to Keating, perhaps, Rousseau in Emile outlines his model of what he calls negative education, which
mm,
is about delaying formal instruction, which obviously that's been sort of central in disputes around when and how we should teach children to read, but also refusing to moralize. So those four pillars are very much sort of anti-Rousseau's ideas. So any idea of forcing children to conform to those kind of traditions would be seen as poor. But so instead of doing this, to shape the environment that the child is in, so that they learn through experience and discovery.
and also we
And
talk about things like forest school, to actually ensure that
right.
the environment is natural, the natural environment,
So
and
can we say that not Keats,
Keating.
Keating's approach to pedagogy, is sort of embodies this idea of negative education, hands off, inspirational, non-didactic?
I,
Isn't that
I don't know if we have enough on him for that, because he is setting them homework. He's getting them to express themselves. He's getting,
well, sort of,
but I don't
sort
know if
of,
we got enough. Have we got enough on him?
and
I don't know.
when
We have.
and when the kids don't take it seriously, he just lets that go. And later on, what's the lesson that he's doing where he's making them kick a football?
Well, yeah, you see, that's another very strange English thing, isn't it? So there they are. They're
Yeah,
actually playing soccer, as they call it over there, disgracefully.
right, yeah.
But yeah, they're shouting poetry out and kicking
Oh
a ball.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
And again, I can see this from a drama perspective. Of course, you're trying to get them to do something energetic and speak with oomph, and these are different ways of doing that. I think all we can do is surmise what sort of teacher he is all the time,
yeah.
because of these very short snippets we're getting. Of course, there never is any other teaching going on. It's a film.
No, no, and it
It's
reminds
just
me. It
hinted at.
reminds me. Years ago, I was head of English in a school, and every there would be a week where a department would have a review, and so we were told, right, the English department's having a review at this stage, and I got the team together, right, this is what we need. This was, back in, I don't know, 2010 or something like that. This is what we need to do. This is what outstanding lessons look like. We need to sort of, make sure we're seen doing all of this stuff. And the review went really, really well. All the lessons were really trendy and fun, and all the kids were being expressive. And I'll never forget, the head teacher said to me, as he was sort of praising me for the quality of the lessons, he said, and there was a look of sort of mild concern in the back of his eyes. He said, "Yeah, but when do you actually teach them stuff?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I never said it, but it was like, when you're not there,
yeah.
obviously. So maybe Keating taught stuff when we, the viewer, aren't
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah. We'll have
Maybe,
to
but
just,
but yeah.
the off stage life, what goes on in the book and
Yeah,
the play
although
and the film when you're not
what I
watching it.
like about that is, the you mentioned the sort of the fact that he's much more of a catalyst than a character, and he doesn't change, he doesn't grow, and all the rest of it. But it's kind of the way teachers work, isn't it? They often loom large in students' minds, and we invent a mythology around the ones that we really admire and like, perhaps. And the fact that they don't really know anything about him is probably important.
Yeah, it's it from the child's perspective, you know very little of the teacher's life, and
No.
that's what's
You were
interesting
calling
about
him
this.
in when we were discussing pre earlier. You were describing him as a MacGuffin.
Yeah, MacGuffin. He's almost there, just as
Do you want to
just
quickly say, just in case anyone's not clear, what a MacGuffin
all right.
is?
MacGuffin is it's. I mean, Hitchcock, I think, is the term. You put
Mm,
something in a film in order to set something off. It doesn't matter what you do, but you want the most important thing is what you set off from it. So it
yeah,
might be a character called MacGuffin who comes in and says
yeah,
something, and what happens from then on is really important.
yeah. Or it
But the
might be
actual
the Maltese
character,
Falcon. Or,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So the character in this case, Mr. Keating, isn't that important. It could be anything really. The important
yeah,
story
yeah.
here is I'd say Neil and his dad is the most important thing, with a sort of secondary story about the other boys and
Of
Todd
Todd
being the
finding
major part of that. Yeah,
his
finding his
voice. Yeah.
voice. Um,
But so what do you make? I mean, we got just to take it back to Keating. So obviously he's held responsible. He's dismissed from the school. And as a viewing experience, we're meant to feel sympathetic. We're meant to feel that he's been wronged, and all the boys have been sort of threatened and cajoled and forced into signing a statement saying that Keating was a wrong un, led by Cameron, who's the first to buckle, and then we have that famous, heavily memed scene at the end where I think it's the head teacher teaching the lesson, isn't it?
yes,
Sort
it
of
is. Yeah,
covering for Williams,
because he's an
and
old English teacher. I mean that's the
yeah,
important
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
and he's appalled to find out they've all ripped the essay from
yeah,
their books, and he finds an unsullied copy and
yeah.
starts reading it to them. So we've gone full circle, and Keating wanders in for some reason to sort of collect
He
his
comes to collect
belongings
his stuff. Yeah,
during that lesson,
yeah.
of course. And it's Todd, isn't it? Gets up onto his desk and says, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," which again, a Whitman quote, and it's
Yeah,
how Keating has asked the boys to address him if they don't want,
early on. Yeah, in the first
early on.
meeting. Yeah,
And he gets up onto his desk to do this, and in my memory, when I first saw this, like all the boys get up, and so
no,
there's an I'm Spartacus moment,
yeah.
but actually, a good half of them ignore the whole thing, don't they?
Including Cameron, as far as I can remember as
Including
well.
Cameron. Yeah, no, definitely
Yeah.
including
So,
Cameron.
and I think that's fair, and
Yeah,
that is how it would be in most people's
in
memory. I think
in
is that
life.
everyone
Yeah.
gets up, but in real life, not everyone likes you. you know, not every.
No, and some of those, and that's one of the, obviously for those children, those boys that he really inspired, he's going to loom large in their lives,
Mm,
if this were real for many years to come. But not for Neil, who's dead, and maybe is it his fault? Maybe, maybe not. There's an argument there. But some of those kids really hated him.
mm,
They
yeah,
just wanted to be.
they
They
wanted
wanted to know what was in the test.
They want to know what's in the test and pass the test and become lawyers and
Yeah,
doctors and all very
yeah,
nice
yeah.
middle class
Which
lives.
Cameron articulates for us, doesn't he?
Yeah. And the expectation of the parents is they pay good money and they want their kids to go into
I am
these
I
professions.
am I right in recalling that Cameron's family is a bit less wealthy than some of the others, and he's very
May
much sort of aware.
I can't honestly comment because I can't remember. And it's only two
Oh,
days
okay.
ago, but
Well,
I wasn't taking
no.
notes of that at that moment.
Okay.
I don't like Cameron. You see, he's a snitch.
No, you're not meant to. You're not meant to.
No, he's a snitch.
But
He's a
he,
grass. He's a
well,
grass.
well, his concerns arguably are treated unfairly in the film, and that for these children from really potentially, obviously, all of them from very privileged backgrounds, that whose parents are all doctors and lawyers, and oh no, it's Neil's dad
Yeah,
who has struggled and scrimped to
yeah,
get
yeah,
into the school.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Um,
There you go.
but yeah,
There goes that train
but
of thought now.
well, no, but there is something to say that
It's the
for
actor's
children who
dad
are
who
for
scrimped
such
and
from such
saved.
privileged backgrounds,
Yeah.
they're going to be fine. It doesn't matter what
Well, we
happens.
don't know. I mean, obviously, not everyone who's rich is necessarily going to have a fine life, but
No,
I certainly know what you
no,
mean. They generally
yeah.
tend to have better lives than those who
Well,
are
the
without.
quality of their schooling is not going to make that much difference.
Yeah.
Is kind of my view.
Do we think
Anyway,
nowadays
look,
that we are living in a romantic world?
in some ways we are. In some way, I think that's one of the big tensions in our lives is that we're fed all of these romantic, capital R, romantic messages about individualism and about living the dream and doing what you feel is right, and yet at the same time we're in this very mechanistic society where we're all sort of expected to have the same dream and to pursue it in the same way,
Mm,
and I think that's very hard
mm.
for people to grapple with. What do you think of that?
Well, we have also the a huge amount of people becoming authors of their own lives in ways of whether they're making podcasts, going on Twitter,
Wow.
X, making their own brands, writing books,
Yeah,
should we say, all these things going on out there.
yeah.
And actually, there's a hell of a lot now that the romantics would sort of recognize as the world that they created, perhaps.
I think maybe, yeah. I don't think you're wrong about that. Let's before we sort of move on entirely. I just bring us back to poems. One of the poems that's quoted in the film, uh, Robert Frost's
Lovely.
"The Road Not Taken."
Mm.
Yeah, and arguably the world's favourite poem
Ooh.
in lots, according to lots
If,
of different
if,
metrics.
surely if. But anyway, go on.
No, if in Britain, but
All right.
across
Okay.
the
All
world,
right.
yeah,
Go on.
no, no, I know, but it has this kind of a life beyond
Yeah.
that of most poems. But
Or at least one line
if
of
had
it does. One line of it,
well,
particularly.
or two, or
Two
two.
lines. Yeah. Go on.
Um, yeah, so um, so the whole setup, or what most people's reading of the poem is. I'll just get it up and I'll read it because I read years ago a great book by David Orr about the
Mm.
road not taken, and his argument is that this poem is popular because nobody understands it. Everyone's misreading it. And what's relevant to our discussion today is that the way in which Keating is using it um, demonstrates either a deliberate misreading
Mm.
or just a standard misreading of the poem. So here it is, for those of you that can't remember it or don't know it. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. I'm sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves. No step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how the way leads on to way, I doubted. if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads, this is the famous bit, two roads diverged into a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. And it's popularly celebrated as you choose to do what fewer people choose to do, and you are rewarded for making that less popular choice. And the point that Orr makes is that it's a joke. And the way he explains it, he says that the road not taken is a dark joke at the expense of a self-deluding speaker. The poem isn't a salute to can-do individualism. It's a commentary on the self-deception we practice when we're constructing the story of our own lives. And one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this up now, obviously it intersects with Dead Poets Society, but also I think it's an emblematic poem, which is an argument against the existence of free will. I know. I
Yeah.
know. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah.
We
We all,
just tell stories. We rationalize. It didn't matter. They were both about the same. He sort of says it again and again and again. They're both about the same. I couldn't really tell the difference. I chose this one. It was arbitrary, but now I've invented this story, which I'll tell in years to come, to aggrandize myself and make myself seem clever and special.
yeah. There's a lovely quote I
I
just
hope I haven't spoiled the poem. I
no,
hope I've made it better.
There's a quote from Charles Taylor, who's a philosopher,
Yeah.
who talking about Pinker, Dennett, and Dawkins, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
he goes on about Pinker's book. What's it called? The Mind
Which one
Explained, or
is?
something like that. It's called The Mind Explained,
Oh
or the Mind,
no,
how the
there's
mind
Dennett
works,
called the conscious, how the mind works.
how the
How the
mind
mind works.
works, and
Conscious is explained, isn't it, by Dennett?
he goes on and he said, and at the end of Pinker's book, Pinker writes, "The things I haven't explained are six things, and these are the self, meaning, free will, consciousness, knowledge, and morality." And so you can explain the mind, but you can't explain those things. I think that says it all sometimes. That
Yeah.
because that's what the mind
What am
is,
I? I
surely.
can't remember. I can't remember
And
who
that's the job of
I'm quite.
schools. Those are the
Well,
things that are the
listen,
job of
listen.
schools.
I can't remember who I'm paraphrasing or quoting here, but I really like it and I use it a lot. That if our mind was simple enough for us to understand, we'd be too simple to understand it.
There you go. And on that note,
Yeah.
I
On that
think
note,
we ought
well, it's
to.
been fun talking about Dead Poets Society. If you've got fond memories, or it leaves you feeling enraged, I think it really does split viewers. Do get in touch and let us know what your take is. And if you've got any suggestions for other films that you'd like us to, educationally related films,
Yeah,
but definitely Kes, I think, maybe in a month or
Kes would be
so,
a good
Martin,
one, and the Holdovers
wouldn't
would be
it?
a good one. And I'm sure there's some
Old Davis, yeah.
more gritty and less
Yeah,
romantic
I'm
ones
sure there
there.
is.
And
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, maybe.
yeah, very gritty. And definitely on that note, thank you for watching and thank you for listening.
And thank you for wasting your time.
Take care.
Goodbye.